Hello everybody, we are back and we're going to be talking about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and whether or not their dynasty is ever going to happen or not. So before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So I know it has been a minute since I've done a video on here. I think the last video that I posted was the Grey Cup recap. Maybe it was something just after that. Either way, I really do apologize. I know that I said I wasn't going to disappear for a couple weeks like I did in the off-season last year. That was multiple times that I did that. This is just once something came up that was really important. I've been busy with work, but we are back. Hopefully going to do 2 videos a week today talking about the Blue Bombers. And if this thing's going to happen, we know for a while now that Winnipeg's been a team that is being thrown in there as a CFL dynasty. They aren't officially yet because you need to claim that 3rd championship in most people's eyes, and that's something that they haven't done. And the question now, as they become another year older collectively, is will they be able to do that? I am just going to say there are some things going in their favor and there are some things going against them. In their favor, they have brought back Kyle Walters on a 2-year extension, and then Buck Pierce seems like he's going to be sticking around where he was in conversation for the Saskatchewan Roughriders job. Corey Mace ended up getting that position. I think that is a good thing for Winnipeg. Pierce been a guy that has caught some scrutiny in the past 2 Grey Cups for the offense not being able to get the job done at times. However, at the same time, I will agree that while there weren't points scored when there probably should have been and there were some bad decisions, they were able to move the ball pretty well, especially in this Grey Cup against the Alouettes. So that is a big win and something that kind of leans them in their favor of getting back to it. And on top of that, you know that this is a group that's very, very successful at getting guys to stay. They just signed Willie Jefferson to an extension the other day, and it seems like when it rains, it pours as they start to get more and more guys to re-sign. They're going to have to figure out how everything's going to work because you have Brady Oliveira and Dalton Schoen that are free agents, but you know that in the positive camp, people not only want to play there, they want to stay there as they try to win and win over and over again. Now on the flip side, there are some things going against them. For starters, their age. They have multiple key players that are well into their 30s at this point. They've played a lot of games, and they've played more games than other teams in terms of playoff games recently. They've been to 4 straight Grey Cups. They have had some guys that have been dealing with injuries, and it seems like some guys that had to play in the Grey Cup that are injured. So there is that. Anytime you have a heavy workload for guys that are veterans and could be dealing with injuries, that's not a good thing. And on top of that, what I just talked about earlier with Oliveira and Schoen, if they want to be able to keep them, it seems like things are going to be much harder to retain some other pieces, or at least that's what's being reported. Now, I'm going to be honest and say this. You can probably lose both of them and be fine because Winnipeg is Winnipeg. But ideally, you know how good they are, and you know that losing them would hurt overall. You could replace some of the production, but at the moment, you probably would like to at least keep one of them. However, who are you going to let go, and who are you going to let walk away in order to keep these guys? Because again, while some of these other players have set the foundation in Winnipeg, these 2 are young and ready to go. And then another con, I don't even know if this is necessarily a con, but I think coming off of 2 straight Grey Cup losses, if things started to fall off the rails a little bit, would there be a little bit of tension because this is a team that has been through so much, they've been through a lot together. Some guys have left though, some guys are newer, there's always going to be guys being brought into the roster, and it's just probably very heated knowing that your roster spot might not be safe because you're an old guy, or there might be a young guy that might not be getting as many opportunities because there's an older guy there as they're on a team that has championship expectations and want to, again, complete this dynasty. So personally, where do I stand in all this and what do I think is going to be the future for Winnipeg? I can't really tell you beyond this season, but I will say this. Winnipeg is probably still in a great spot to go back to the Grey Cup. Looking at Calgary, they're not ready to challenge the Blue Bombers just yet. They would need a really good free agency. Calgary does not like to do free agency. They don't like to go out there and spend money, so you can kind of just push them out of the way a little bit. Edmonton, a team that is seen as a club being on the rise. They're probably not there yet either in terms of challenging the Blue Bombers, a team that's been able to go 4 straight times to the championship game. Edmonton hasn't posted a winning record since, 2018? They are still focused on retooling. The Saskatchewan Roughriders, a team that has gone back-to-back 6-12 seasons. They, I do think, have the potential to be better, especially if Harris is going to be able to play for them next year, but they probably aren't there either. So that's kind of the good news. The bad news is here, though, there are other teams that have been able to beat them or could beat them. I'm looking at teams like the Argonauts. Had they been able to go there to the Grey Cup, maybe they go on to beat Winnipeg. Maybe it's not even close. Maybe they end up running up the score and they're able to go back to back and talk about how they could be the next CFL dynasty. Montreal, team that just beat them, they've been able to retain guys they have signed: Sean Lemon, Darnell Sankey, and Cody Fajardo in recent days. So a lot of that core group that they had going into that title game where they beat the Bombers is going to be back, and they're going to be motivated, looking for another championship. Sean Lemon just seems to find success wherever he goes as he gets another ring. So the Owls, obviously building off of what they did last year with guys like Stubblefield and Mack, etc., they're going to be very, very hungry. And then, of course, you've got the BC Lions, that are the team that has been the runner-up back-to-back years in the Western Final. They still have good enough pieces where I think that with a little bit of youth and some things going their way, and just kind of playing around with the roster, they will be right there. So there are some things where I say there are some teams that won't really get in their way, and I do think the good thing is that there's only one team realistically that gets in their way in this upcoming season on their division, being BC. But the Bombers obviously have a target on their back, as they have the Lions that are looking to get to the Grey Cup, and some other teams that are saying, hey, we beat you in recent memory in the Grey Cup. So you got to factor in too, a team like Hamilton, a team like Ottawa, they're going to be looking to try to get better. Whether or not they would get to the Grey Cup, probably not, but just one of those things you got to watch out for. But I will say, I do think that the Blue Bombers are really in a situation where I think they could go back and possibly win this thing. Corey Mace going to the Rough Riders is probably a good thing for them, because you have addition by subtraction. Mace leaving Toronto, a team that just went 16-2, going to a team that is 6-12 that probably needs some work and isn't really ready to compete, like I already said, with Winnipeg. So having that go and that be the case there is good. While on top of that, keeping Pierce and maybe, just maybe, saving his best for last, or just the coming years, as Blue Bombers have a lot to figure out this off season. Will they be a dynasty? Officially, I'm going to say yes, they will get that one last ring, but it's got to come within the next year, 2 or 3 years, I guess, if you want to call it that, because how much more time does Coloros have? How much time does some of the guys on the offensive line have? How much time do some of the guys defensively have? They have big names, but the question is, will these guys be able to play at big name level in, 3 or 4 years? That remains to be seen, but I'm going to be an optimist here for you Winnipeg fans, and I'm going to say that the dynasty does officially get cemented in the next couple of years. And to add on to my optimism, I just want to say that in both of those games against the Argonauts and the Alouettes, they were right there to be able to go on and win those games. We, instead of talking to them about whether or not they would be a CFL dynasty, would be talking about them as being potential 4-time Grey Cup champions, and being compared to the Edmonton team from the late 70s, early 80s, where they won 5 in a row. So yes, obviously they're 2-2 in the Grey Cup in the past 4 seasons, but had literally minuscule things gone their way, we're talking about a 5-peat. So yeah, that's just kind of my last bit there. So anyway, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.